Hello and welcome back. We're finishing up the last section um, from what we were covering, so I just want to jump back in and welcome back. We were finishing talking about Italy joining the Allies. They finally decided to join because they did not agree with Germany, who was their teammate, and they say, okay, Allies. Now notice the year 1915, so the war has already gone on a year, and then they declare that they are with the Allies and they're declaring war on the Central Powers. Now they are going to help fairly small, but what they're going to do is open up another front for Germany to have to defend. So now Germany has to think both sides, and now Italy on the bottom. So they have to think Russia, France, and Italy. It can get pretty tough for Germany. So Italy comes in, but what's going to make this war completely different, and many scholars have said this is um, World War One was medieval tactics of just lining up, fighting each other, but with modern weapons. And we're going to see a lot of new technology come about because right before this we had the industrial era where all these new technologies are coming about, and we haven't had this major scale war like this since the um, revolution, the industrial revolution. So notice some of the big ones, the machine guns, which is going to cause more deaths, more fatalities. Gas masks, which are very important for the gas that was used, the chemical gas that was um, poisonous and extremely deadly. And in fact, this is the story of one certain German corporal that you may know. We'll talk about him later that was affected by the poison gas. The British in 1916 are going to come up with a tank and they're going to introduce it. This is the weapon I was talking about that would just go right over the barbed wire. And the Germans see it coming. They were not prepared for the tank. The British like kind of caught the Germans by surprise with the introduction of the tank. And it's going to be one of the most valuable weapons in World War One. The other most valuable weapon is going to be the airplane. Now, we've gotten the invention of the airplane, and this is the very first time in war airplanes are used. They first start by reconnaissance, which is observing the enemy's position. So both sides are going to fly their planes around and they're going to look and see where the other troops are. Now, whenever they get up flying around each other, then one pilot gets the idea, if we're flying up here, why not shoot at the other guy? So he can't fire and shoot, so the guy behind him, he takes up another friend and they start shooting back and forth at each other. So we're starting to see air warfare really start developing, but it's not like World War II at all. This is very primal air warfare, where that's about the most extreme the air warfare gets, which is another guy in the back shooting at the other guy in the plane. Um, they would also say, hey, if we're flying right over the enemy, looking at them, why not drop stuff on them? So at first they were just dropping rocks, stones. They would fire down. It was kind of hard to fire from the air. So then they start thinking, why not drop the poison gas? Why not drop these bombs on them as well? So the World War One really starts to get minds going on how to use aircraft for war, and then we're going to see in World War Two it's going to be an extreme measure. Now, one one weapon that we don't see till really only in World War One is the Zeppelin, and that's what the Germans are going to use for reconnaissance and for bombing as well. And notice they will go all the way to eastern England, and London is pretty close to eastern. They will go all the way to London and really kind of get into the English mind, kind of like what we see in World War II. But the Zeppelin is going to be a secret, or not a secret weapon, but a good weapon for the Germans. Here you see the gas mask. Probably not what we were thinking of whenever we said gas mask, but again, the gas masks were invented because, hey, we're using this poison gas. We need a way to protect ourselves from this weapon. You see the picture of the Zeppelin as well. It's just like a blimp, a hot air, not a hot air balloon, but a blimp that we would see today. Same idea. Um, with the air warfare, the most famous of the German pilots, I want you to know, you see his name at the bottom, von Richthofen, was known as the Red Baron. You want to know his nickname as well? He's going to be the most successful German pilot in the German Air Force, that you call it. And he's going to be the one that gets the most fame and for his accomplishments. And he's the one that we accredit that to. Moving on to their other secret weapon, and this one is going to be even more deadly than their air warfare, and that is the U-boat. You see the undersea boot. I don't know. You can have fun with it. But the underwater boat essentially is what the U-boat stands for. The underwater boat is going to be the #1 weapon that Germans are going to use. In fact, this is what's going to bring America into the war eventually, because right now America is neutral. Um, the Germans were only using the U-boat first by only attacking military boats, but we're going to see that they're going to have some conflicts, and they're really in their minds they're going to say this is our most valuable weapon, so let's use it. In fact, the Navy general told the Kaiser, he said, we need to use the U-boat to win the war. We can if we go all out with the U-boat. Don't even worry about just military or vessels. And the Kaiser says, I'm afraid that'll get America in the war. And he says, no, I promise you it won't. Well, little did they know it would. One is because the Lusitania was a British boat, yes. It was leaving from the Americas over to England, and as soon as it gets into the war zone or the unrestricted zone, it's shot. Now, the Germans warned everyone on board and warned America and Britain that they will shoot anything in this war zone. Even if it's unarmed, anything, they will shoot it. So there was warning for the Lusitania, but the Lusitania was not a war vessel. It was a luxury boat. In fact, there's a picture of it. I'll tell you the page exactly. It's on page 448. And it was not an American boat, but there were several Americans on board. Notice of the 1,200 people, there were about 130 Americans on board. So anytime Americans lose their lives, Americans are not happy. I mean, we even saw that with recent events in Iraq with Soleimani. But this does not bring us into the war. It gets us mad at Germany, but it does not make us come into the war. Notice it's May of 1917. But we haven't come in just yet. It's one thing, so hang on to it. This is a German U-boat. This is pictured on 447. I wanted to leave it up because it's pretty cool. The technology of it, what it stores. Notice the deck gun outside, the periscope where they use subtlety to their advantage, and this is pretty advanced for what the days were. And it's all because of the Industrial Revolution. You can see it actually surface and notice the massive size of it compared to the people around it. It's pretty big. It's not just some small boat to be messing with. And they were extremely deadly and extremely effective. This is a picture from 448. Looks very similar to the Titanic, kind of the same idea, this luxury liner. And it was shot down. It goes down fairly quickly, which makes some skeptics say, "Oh, were there ammunition and arms at the bottom of it that would make it explode and go down faster?" We don't know. Conspiracy theorists have their thoughts. Let's go on to Russia. I don't want to keep you very much longer. We're going to go through this fairly quickly. Russia, as we said before, Germany kind of had Russia hemmed in. They couldn't really finish the blow, but Russia is really struggling internally. So Nicholas the First that you see here is the Tsar. We already learned he was the last Tsar of Russia. Um, and he's going to abdicate, or he's going to give up his throne on March 15th, 1917. He gives it up. Now, the next guy that comes after him tries to bring order and rule back, but he's not going to be successful, mainly because there was another revolution. This is called the Bolshevik Revolution. The Bolsheviks were led by Vladimir Lenin. Notice the year 1918. Vladimir Lenin comes to power. He's bringing communism. He doesn't invent communism. Karl Marx is the guy that creates this communism idea. But Lenin is the guy that promotes it. He's going to be the leader of it, and he's going to win the revolution. And whenever he becomes leader of Russia, then the first thing he's going to do is get Russia out of the war. That way he can focus on building Russia back up. So they create this treaty, the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk, which actually gives a lot to Germany. Russia loses a lot. I want you to read what Russia loses. It's on page 149. You see the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. It says, one, it'll take Russia out of the war. But look at the very bottom, the very last sentence. It says, Germany gains access to badly needed raw materials. More importantly, Germany can now concentrate its troops in the West. So now Germany is in the good. Between that, I'm sorry, right under the treaty, it says Russia gave up 1.3 million square miles of land, and they lost 90% of their coal resources. They gave up a lot of the resources, which is good for Germany, bad for Russia, obviously. But Vladimir Lenin's just wanting Russia out of the war and getting control, so he makes this deal. Now it's good for Germany. They get the resources. Now they just focus on the West. But what they're really hoping for is the United States stays out of the war. And at the beginning, they were out of the war. They were neutral. In fact, the president at the time was Wilson, and he kept America out of the war. And then he goes up for re-election, and his campaign slogan was, "I kept you out of the war, so you should vote for me again." And it allows him to win the presidency. They elect him again. But things don't go very well. In fact, I want you to look on 449 and 450. You will see this list of reasons why America comes into the war. You have the German submarine that already made us upset. One, we were very close with England and France already. The German plot is the Zimmermann Note. You probably remember that from before. But the Zimmermann Note is when Germany writes this letter to Mexico saying, Mexico, remember when you were upset at the Americans for taking your land, like New Mexico, Arizona? We'll give it back to you if you join our side for the war. Now what happens is Britain catches that letter, that telegram, that note, and they publish it, and they give it to America. They give it to us. And Americans are not happy with Germany. Mexico never gets a letter. Mexico never joins. But after that, we're like, okay, war. Propaganda, the power of the words, we're able to really grip people's opinions and really motivate people toward the war. And financial ties. You can always look for the financial ties. And just the fact that the last one is, what if Germany won? How would that affect the different power? So, April 6, 1917, America enters the war. We put John Blackjack Pershing in charge. He's the guy that's going to be in charge of American forces. That's not to be confused with the next guy we see, which is Foch. Foch is the commander of all the Allied armies in France, and he is going to put a stop to this advancing German army. So much so that whenever America comes in, Germany sees that they're done. So America really, talk about the balance of power, really tips the balance of power. And now when America comes in the war, it's really done. America comes in 1917, but notice the end, 1918. Notice 11 o'clock on the 11th month of the 11th day, Germany asks for peace. And with this, World War I ends. So I hope you guys enjoyed the war. Hope you guys do well on the quizzes and the reading, and we'll see you guys next time.